Hi friends, welcome back to 5 Minute Modern. My name is Cindy, and today we're talking about another of my favorite artists, the Croatian feminist performer Sanja Iveković. Iveković was born in 1949 in Zagreb, in what is today Croatia, though at the time that Iveković was born, Croatia was still part of Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia is in a region of southeastern Europe known as the Balkans, long marked by ethnic conflict. During World War II, after Nazis invaded the region, communist partisans under the leadership of Josip Broz Tito were eventually able to fight the Nazi army back and regain control. Tito took over the Communist Party and led Yugoslavia from 1944 until his death in 1980. Tito was a complicated figure. He was a communist, but was sporadically embraced by the West as a more liberal figure that they could work with. He didn't engage in the extreme levels of violence and genocide that define the horrific reign of dictators like Hitler and Stalin, but Tito was unquestionably an authoritarian who spent his entire political career consolidating and maintaining power. As part of maintaining his power, Tito sought to maintain a cult of personality very similar to the one that Stalin fostered in the Soviet Union. He delighted in wearing his military uniform with its exorbitant number of medals and making lavish official appearances. And that's why Iveković decided to disrupt one of those appearances with her 1979 performance, Triangle. On May 10, 1979, Tito was set to visit Zagreb, and his motorcade would pass right by Iveković's apartment. Iveković knew there would be a great deal of security around for the visit and decided to provoke an interaction with them. Being on a balcony as Tito's motorcade passed by was strictly prohibited by the authorities, though many people disobeyed this order. Iveković illustrated this with her piece New Zagreb, also dating from Tito's May 1979 visit to her city. In New Zagreb, Iveković took a newspaper photo and highlighted all the people visible from the balconies or behind their windows watching Tito drive by. To perform Triangle, Iveković went out on her own balcony, predicting that she would be spotted by a secret police agent from the roof of a neighboring building, who would then notify a police officer on the street, who would then command Iveković to return indoors, thus completing the full triangle of the title. But Iveković didn't just stand idly on her balcony to perform Triangle. She stepped out dressed in an American t-shirt with a glass of Ballantine whiskey, cigarettes, and books. Her outfit and props were perhaps symbols of an alternative Western culture as a contrast to the authoritarian communism of Eastern Europe. She sat on a chair on her balcony and started reading from Elites and Society, a 1964 book by sociologist Tom Bottomore that studies power imbalances in modern society. As she read, she pretended to masturbate. Just as Iveković predicted, 18 minutes after she began, a police officer came to her apartment and insisted that she stop her activities and step inside. Iveković herself said that she was provoking a male gaze with this piece. Typically, the concept of the male gaze relates to film critic Laura Mulvey's idea that women are positioned for the pleasure of male spectators. However, in the case of Iveković, it was not a single male who was watching, but rather a male agent of an autocratic system. Historian Piotr Piotrowski noted that the performance showcased the high degree of surveillance to which Yugoslavian citizens were subjected, even as their nation's government was conceived of as a relatively liberal power by many in the West. But I would argue that sex relations are also inextricably bound up in the power imbalance that Iveković explores here. In seeing Iveković appearing to derive pleasure from her feminine body, an apparatus of the state forces her out of view. Meanwhile, Tito, as the figurehead of that state, is allowed to flaunt his masculinity widely and openly in his performance of a military parade on the street below. Triangle points to the logical conclusion of the male gaze concept, in which women are held up not as objects for male pleasure, but as objects for male control. But it also points to the way in which the masculine power of the state is predictable, image-obsessed, and ultimately imprisoned by its own procedures. And I think that's what's so remarkable about this piece. Iveković shows that it's not her who is most disempowered by the state's suppression. Rather, the state disempowers itself by acting exactly as Iveković predicted they would in carrying out their petty agenda. It's a really subversive and very interesting piece, one that I think can be explored from many angles. Please let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.